Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back for another Walking Dead video. Today I want to talk about Daryl Dixon Season 2, kind of just give my overall thoughts about the entire season, kind of breaking it down episode by episode with just a handful of notes that I took about each episode, the good and the bad, but I mean, mostly it's kind of leaning on the bad side, and that's just what's really unfortunate regarding this series that we were all so hyped up about. I mean, the first season, really good. I really enjoyed the first season. Just the introduction of Daryl into a new environment, introducing these new characters that we ended up really liking, and then it just kind of going downhill from there. The choices that they made as far as trying to wedge characters back into this universe that didn't want to be in it in the first place, and then just kind of plans changing and just with it taking that turn and people coming back and more questions than answers is what is really infuriating about this series and about this world and what they continue to do with it. And so we're just going to talk about it and just kind of give my overall rating for the season. But kind of episode by episode. Episode 1, the series premiere, is supposed to come on pretty strong. Like, they're supposed to have a strong opening, jumping back into this world. As usual, beforehand, we had gotten like the first 10 minutes or so of the premiere, and going in kind of immediately right after Daryl decides to stay in France and take care of Laurent and make sure he's okay, then go back to Isabel and just all of that. It's really ended up being kind of a weak start to the season. Carol being reintroduced, being brought back into this world, kind of like I mentioned, just kind of wedged back in there and just kind of shoving other characters aside, which I really didn't like. And Daryl really didn't have a whole lot of screen time in this. And just along with that too, the way that Carol was kind of introduced, the conveniences that were involved, where she goes to that trading post. No one really fights back. She gets the answers she's looking for. She's leaving after finding out that Daryl is indeed across the ocean in France and wondering how she's going to get there. And then just out of the blue, literally, a airplane flies overhead and tracking that down, getting to Ash, and then the whole thing with her faking being trapped in his little booby trap or whatever, that was really lame too. And then just, it was all to kind of bring his guard down. And the way that he was introduced, though, I mean, Ash is a character I really like. I really like his backstory, the tragedy of his kid, and I really thought that they were going to take his tragedy and Carol's tragedy and make them bond, and that's what gets them over to France. But they kind of just ignored that completely and had Carol lie, and I really hated that. I mean, I know a lot of people say it's kind of within character of her and everything, but I did not care for the lie, and just I thought it was really unnecessary. They really could have bonded over the whole Sophia thing and just come clean. You know, I don't have any family left. This guy over in France is the only family that I really have left. And that just would have made a better story, and just the whole lie was unnecessary. Poor taste in writing. I just did not like it. And just the whole Sophia thing too. I mean, Sophia's been gone for a long time. And for Carol to have never really dealt with that, I mean, I understand things come up, things happened with the war, with different things going on, losing other people along the way too, but just, I thought it was really just, I don't know, it was like them trying to play on the nostalgia of it all, and really trying to play on our feelings, and maybe even bring back some of the older fans that have since left and just decided not to watch any of this anymore. But it really, it doesn't get better from there, because episode 2, we get the whole Greenland storyline. Really weird, with some really creepy women, and the object of their goals and everything, basically wanting to make Ash a sperm donor. I thought that was weird. And it was really an unnecessary story point for the episode, other than the fact that Carol and Ash had to make a pit stop here to make some repairs on the plane, and then they were just on their way. And it was, and I know a lot of people just did not care for that. It was kind of a weak point of the episode. And then it's just, I don't know, it doesn't really get better from there, because we go into episode 3, because episode 2 kind of ends with Sylvie investigating after everything that had gone wrong with Daryl being led out, and along with Isabel too, being led into this trap and everything, with Sylvie's boyfriend, who had since been rescued in the first episode. And so to have him lead Daryl and everybody into this trap, because, you know, this is what Lo Sang wants, because we do eventually find out Lo Sang's not what he seems. He's very, very obsessed with Laurent and this so-called prophecy and the things that he's supposed to lead them to, paradise or what have you. And I just did not care for that. And then, you know, Sylvie's boyfriend kind of gets what's coming to him anyways, but then turning it around And going into episode 3, the whole thing with Lo Sang being so obsessed with this prophecy to the point that he has to drug Laurent to get him to partake in this ritual that's supposed to prove that he is the chosen one, he is the future, and just all of that. And I thought that was just really lame. And on top of that too, I've never cared for that storyline. I thought that was really stupid. I understand that's kind of a critical part of his character or whatever, but as far as Laurent being the chosen one and being a part of this prophecy, I really never cared for that storyline. But going as far to push that narrative that they kill Sylvie, and it just seems that is the first of the dominoes to really fall in this season, because it becomes a trend within this episode, and even with further episodes with the season, just kind of what they do to push the story forward. And it does not get better after that. Episode 4, Lo Sang taking over as the bad guy because they kill Janae. They give her, albeit a very awesome death. She kind of gets a taste of her own medicine, literally, where they inject her with the variant Walker, serum, where she turns and she just goes through all this, what looks like a very painful death. So she gets exactly what she deserves. I enjoyed that part. But then turning around and killing Isabel after building up her story, and the way they did it, it was a very cheap death. And not only that, behind it, if you read between the lines, this was all about giving Carol that spotlight and removing Isabel from the equation, even though it's not about a jealousy thing between her and Daryl. And I just really, really hated that. It was a really big shame to do away with her character because she had become important to Daryl. And it seems like Daryl keeps getting screwed on this instance, where he's never really opened up to anybody. He's never been one to be with anybody. And then he finally opens up to someone, and she's just killed in the worst way possible. She's just stuck in the gut with a knife, and she bleeds out from this. And her dying dialogue was very weak, and I didn't care for that. And then on top of that, too, you had the old couple in the episode. I mean, they're just kind of a medium or whatever within the episode, just kind of filling that little plot line to just turn around and sell them out. And just, that was dumb too. I mean, I wish I had better things to say about the season, but it seems like it just keeps getting worse. The writing is just not that great, because we get into episode 5 where Lo Sang is now in charge of Janae's people, after Janae's people just kind of be like, well, she's dead, I guess we're just going to move on, and you're going to be in charge now because we didn't really believe in her mission anyways, or whatever it was. And then having him take the reins, go after Daryl, and just really obsess about getting Laurent back. And it's just, I did not care for it. One of the redeeming qualities of this episode, though, was I guess it can be kind of followed up with episode 4, and just with this character throughout the season, was Condron's redemption. I really enjoyed the fact that he kind of realized that he was in the wrong, that he could not be a part of any mission that goes after killing a child, and just the things that he was doing to survive. He realized that he was on the wrong side of the line, and he needed to make amends for the things that he's done, other than the fact that he did try his best to keep the secret of where Laurent was being stashed and whatnot at the nest before that line got blurred. But I really enjoyed the fact that they took that character who was introduced as more or less a villain, and then completely turned it around and gave him a really satisfying redemption arc. But again, it kind of goes downhill from there. And within this episode, the one thing I did enjoy as far as Carol, I mean, she was kind of forced to, but she comes clean with Ash about this is not about Sophia. Sophia's long since dead. And Ash has a response that I believe is completely reasonable, and just letting her have it, tearing into her, and talking about how when Daryl comes back with Laurent and everybody saying how this is Ash's plane, he's going to get us out of here. And Ash is like, on the contrary, I can't. The plane will not take all 4 of us. So just setting it up for failure right there. But then again, getting into the finale. This is one thing that really bugged me. When the finale, or actually before the season even aired, there was an interview going around with Norman Reedus saying how the finale of this season is the, and I quote, best 1 hour Walking Dead anything ever. And I thought that was a total just overhype, because when we got into this episode and by the time it was done, that was complete bullshit. This was not by any means the best Walking Dead ever. I don't understand what would make him say that, other than to hype it up as part of his promotional responsibilities and whatnot. But The first 20-30 minutes I really enjoyed. They set it up. We had some good gunfights. We had Anna come back in the last episode because she helped Laurent and everybody get back to where Ash was. But we had her kind of flip, but not so much. Like, she was caught up by, I can't even remember her name anymore, but Lo Sang's little general or whatever, after Lo Sang was killed in the last episode, off screen, mind you, and kind of taking away from the gore of the Walking Dead, what it used to be. But he's gone. Now this chick is in charge, so we've already filed through, up to her anyways, 3 different villains in this single season. And that was just something I didn't care for. I mean, I know I keep saying that about this season, and you people could just say, you know, just stop watching it. Well, I want to see how it ends, unfortunately. And I want to see where they take the story and see if we get the ultimate payout, which would be Rick and Daryl and everybody else reuniting at the end of whatever they decide to do with this. But getting back to episode 6, like I said, first 20-30 minutes were great. We get the send-off of Ash and Laurent, really making it seem like they're setting up for something potentially big down the road because they're going back to America. That's the plan anyways. They're going back to America. When we can only assume that Carol gave him a map or directions or something to get back to the Commonwealth in the Alexandria area, maybe, to where Laurent can have some sort of normal life. They can let people know this is where Daryl is, this is where Daryl and Carol are, and you know, just let them know that they're okay for the most part, because at this point I don't think Carol really knows about the whole Rick thing, because that was another big thing too. And this was within episode 4, where Daryl actually comes out and says, who did you say came back when we were on the radio? You said someone came back. She said, no, that's a feeling. That was a big cop-out and just a really big disappointment. And it kind of unfortunately confirmed my suspicions, because ever since they did that, everyone was always saying that she said Rick came back. And I never believed it, because just the way she conveyed the message, I just could not believe that's how she would do that. So I just never believed for a second that she said that Rick came back. Plus, why would she say that over the radio and just kind of blow it off? That was just always my impression about it. But getting back to episode 6, again, 20-30 minutes, first 20-30 minutes of the episode, really good, setting up possibly something down the road. And then we get the tunnel sequence. We get Condron, Falou, Daryl, Carol, and a couple of new characters, this Scottish couple or whatever, that will guide them to the tunnel, which is supposed to connect France and London, and this is how they will eventually make their way home. But they get to this tunnel sequence, and it turns out the tunnel is toxic just from the air that's in there, and the rotting corpses and things that are going on within the tunnel, natural occurrences and whatnot, and it begins to make everyone more or less start tripping balls, and they don't know what's going on, they don't know what's real. And then we have Condron attack Daryl after they've since made up. They're buddies now or whatever, or at least they have an understanding. And Daryl gets Condron off of him, and then Condron, after believing he's seeing his Walker Corpse brother, takes off in the darkness, and we don't know what happens to him. I thought that was a really stupid writing choice, and it's unfortunate because I really enjoyed the fact that he got his redemption and he could prove to be a vital part of The Walking Dead going forward, and they decided not to do that. So they just sent him off in the darkness. We don't know what happened. And kind of rounding out the episode, the whole Sophia thing, they revisited that once again, just so Carol could have some closure. And she should have had closure years ago, but I understand too, things have happened along the way that she couldn't really take that time to grieve or go through the process. But this is just kind of Carol getting that grieving through, getting that forgiveness or whatever, forgiving herself for what happened, and just kind of going from there. And the episode ends with Daryl and Carol by themselves walking off into the metaphorical sunsets, going off into the tunnel to make their way to England. And I just thought that was just, I don't know. With the whole thing, with so far, there's no end in sight as far as the road home at all. And kind of right down the middle, season 2 gets a 5 out of 10 from me. Because they just built it up so much. They killed off characters that we loved. I mean, others got killed off too, but they kind of had it coming. And just with the cop-out about the whole so-and-so came back, turned out to be nothing. It was a feeling, which I thought was lame. And just little things here and there. And the biggest thing that really bugged me, with them killing off people left and right, with them running off into the darkness, it really seemed like they just wanted to sever that France storyline and just start over clean just because Carol had come back. And with the whole Book of Carol thing too, I hated that. I thought that was dumb. I thought it was unnecessary, just kind of pivoting the season in her direction and making it all about her, just bringing her back into the fold and whatnot. So I really didn't care for the subtitle. I never did when they first announced it. But all in all, I mean, the season was okay, but it's definitely not what I would hoped it would be after all these years. I mean, we've had Daryl for almost 15 years now, and they are really milking The Walking Dead for everything it's worth, and they have no clear end in sight. They're not listening to the fan base and the things that we want to see. I mean, I shouldn't have to say it, but we want to see a reunion of everyone coming back together back home. And right now, it just doesn't seem like they're in any hurry to do that. They have no real idea of how they want to do it. At least they're not making that known. And just with certain things being hyped up and it being completely untrue, I just have not cared as far as, you know, what they're trying to accomplish with the story. Because as we know, they're going into season 3. It's going to be in Spain, with a small fraction of it being in London, and something happens to the point where they end up in Spain and just further away from home. Because from what I understand, season 4, if it's confirmed, it hasn't been confirmed yet, will take place in the Middle East, even further away from home. So they are just kind of playing it by ear. They've said themselves that they're just season by season at this point, and they don't really have a clear plan of what they want to do as far as getting everyone back home, if that's even the plan at all. Because from what I understand, there's supposed to be some big announcement with Rick coming soon, you know, determining the future of his status or whatever within the Walking Dead universe and what they really plan to do with it. Who knows at this point? I really don't think they know. We definitely don't, because they're just kind of leaving things open in random different areas. We've had open storylines with other spinoffs concerning our main Walking Dead characters, and there's just no clear picture for the road home. And that's what's been the most frustrating. And I guess that will do it. I hope you stuck through that rant and have some of the same feelings I do towards it. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Come back for more Walking Dead videos just like this, and I will see you next time. So take care. Bye.